Hello, welcome back once again. In today's video, I bring for you the importance of effective listening.
Sagar, I need you to submit my file to Malvika ma'am. So go to fifth floor, and then from the fifth floor, take a right after you go out from the lift, and then it is her third door is her office. Enter there and leave the file to her. Can you do that?
Yes, sir. On fifth floor,
Yes.
left turn.
No, it's not left turn. I said right turn. You are not paying attention.
So from this video clip, we understand that listening is rather a difficult process. As the receiver, when he's involved in the process of listening, he not only has to understand what the sender is communicating, but he has to concentrate on the information. And while concentrating, his attention should be focused on what the sender is trying to communicate. So he has to remove all the distractions, that exist in his surrounding. So I would say that while listening, it is not only important to understand the information of the sender, but it is equally important for us to understand that just merely maintaining eye contact with the sender is not sufficient to involve ourselves in the process of listening. So in the video clip, you have seen that the receiver was constantly maintaining eye contact with the sender. But even though there was a constant eye contact, but still, the receiver did not understand the entire information conveyed by the sender. This is because if the eye contact does not indicate, maintaining eye contact does not indicate that the receiver is actually involved in the process of listening. So what is necessary in the process of listening, we will see a little later. So first of all, let us understand the difference between hearing and listening. So I would say that hearing is the physiological act of hearing sound. That is the ability of our ears to receive the sounds that fall onto our ears. So it could be various sounds. It could be in the form of noise. It could be in the form of music. It could be in the form of the vehicles moving on the road and so on. But whereas listening is the process where we actively pay attention to the sounds and words, that is, we not only hear the sounds, but we also try to differentiate between the different sounds, and we also try to understand the meaning conveyed through these particular sounds. So therefore, we are actively paying attention, and as we understand, it requires effort. It is not an easy task. So from the video clip also, you must have understood that listening requires effort. So just maintaining eye contact may not help us to get involved in the process of listening. We also have to take efforts in order to be involved in the process of listening. So let us understand the process of listening. So listening is an active process whereby the receiver has to be completely present in the conversation. That is, he has to create an atmosphere in his background whereby he can remove all the distractions that could exist in the background. Distractions in the form of noise, distraction in the form of internal distraction, that is through his mental process, when he's involved in a lot of thoughts, that he has to be able to filter out all these thoughts, and he has to concentrate on what the sender is communicating. So if he has that kind of an ability, then of course a listening process becomes very easy, and of course you are also part of the actively involved in the process of communication. Then maintaining eye contact is important, no doubt, but merely maintaining eye contact will not help you in the process of listening, as we've already seen in the video. So we also have to notice the nonverbal cues or the signals that is used by the sender in the process of communication. So the receiver has to keep asking questions to the sender in the form of clarification, in the form of verifying whether he has understood the information the way the sender had intended. And of course, he has to also reflect on the information that he has received from the sender. In a way, when he's reflecting on the information, he's also trying to use his background knowledge in order to identify whether the information that he already has about this particular topic, whether it is the same information or the information varies or there's a difference in the information. And accordingly, he will be able to evaluate the information. So the listener listens to understand rather than to respond. At the same time, we have to understand that the listener, when he is engaged in the process of listening, he does not listen in order to give judgment about the sender. So an active listener will not give a judgment about the sender. Rather, he will listen in order to form his own perspective, in order to analyze the information, in order to tap his background information, and thereby acquire as much knowledge or as much information as possible from the sender. So he will try to withhold the judgment, because here he is being very flexible. That is, he is respecting the perspective of the other person. And this is what is a sign of a mature listener. And it is also a sign of an interactive listener. So having said this, I would say that listening is an active process. And let us now find out from another video what is the meaning of listening as an active process.
Do you recall the format of the business meeting assignment?
Yes, you should first write the letter, notice, that is, and then the agenda, I guess so, and then the minutes.
Yes, minutes of the meeting. So let me explain what is there. First, in the notice, you have to write and explain where the meeting will be placed, at what time, and who all are supposed to attend the meeting, and what is the general topic of discussion in the meeting.
In the meeting, that
Yes.
Notice part.
Yes, that is the first part of the business meeting assignment. Then you go to the agenda. In the agenda, all the topics of discussion in the meeting, in generalization, you have to arrange them, and the time allotted for each point,
Okay.
and who is going to be speaking on the particular topic has
So
to be
it
discussed.
should be in a tableau manner,
Yes, yes,
where
in a
the
table
time
form.
and the topics.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. And finally, in the minutes of the meeting, it is basically one person in the meeting who notes down every point that is being discussed and who spoke about it, and basically the important points of uh, the whole passage of the speaker has
Okay.
said.
Yes. Sure.
That's basically it.
Having seen this video clip, you might have understood that when the listener is involved in the process of listening, he becomes an active listener. But active listener means that he's not only maintaining eye contact and asking questions, but he's also trying to note down important points. So when you're noting down important points, it helps you to retain the information, because you can go back to the information and try to understand what the sender has communicated, or you can also try to recall what the sender has communicated. So this is really helpful. It helps you in maintaining concentration, because most of the time, if you just maintain eye contact and you nod your head at frequent intervals, there is a possibility that you might be distracted due to various reasons. So instead of doing that, if you maintain, a habit of noting down important points while you are engaged in the process of listening, you can definitely um, assure yourself that you are concentrating on the information. And this will also help you to become an interactive listener. That is, you come up with your own views, you come up with your own points, you ask questions, you restate the information in your own words. As you've seen in the video, the listener was restating the information of what he had understood about the topic in his own words, thereby trying to assure, or thereby trying to confirm whether the information that he has understood is exactly the same as what the sender had communicated. So in this way, the active process of listening continues. So let us understand the different types of listening now. So the first type of listening is informational listening. As you have seen in the video, the receiver was engaged in the process of informational listening. In the sense, he used the process of listening in order to learn information about a notice writing agenda and writing the minutes of the meeting. So the listener here is actually trying to use this particular aspect of listening in order to acquire information, in order to gather knowledge, in order to gather information. So therefore, he is involved in the process of understanding, and he retains that information, as I told you, by noting down important points. And this helps him in order to remember what the sender had communicated. So it requires concentration. It is not an easy task. And I would say that the receiver is highly engaged in this type of listening. So having said this, let us now move on to the second type of listening, that is discriminative listening. In discriminative listening, the listener goes beyond the words that's conveyed by the sender. He tries to tries to understand the information that is not spoken by the sender. In the sense, he gives importance to the non-verbal cues that is expressed by the sender, thereby where he reads between the lines. So I would say that paying attention to nonverbal cues is also equally important, because sometimes, the verbal information and the nonverbal cues, they may not synchronize, because the sender might be communicating something more than what he's trying to use it in the form of words. So the tone of the voice and the nonverbal cues definitely helps the receiver to understand between the lines. So for example, in an organization, if your superior is using the verbal communication in order to appreciate his employees for their efforts, but his non-verbal body language indicates that he is not happy with what these employees have done. So it is becomes very obvious to the employees that they need to improve their performance, or they need to do something more in order to get receive the appreciation from the superiors. So having understood this, let us now move on to the other types of listening, that is the selective listening. Selective listening, as you understand from the word itself, that the receiver tends to select what he is going to, or what he wants to hear, or what he wants to listen to. So you already, prior to the information that is conveyed by the sender, you already decide what exactly you want to listen. So in a way, you might miss out important information that is conveyed by the sender. So it is advisable not to go for selective listening. So in a way, selective listening can only be done by people who are very confident about what the knowledge that he has, and this may not be applicable to all people, or it may not be applicable in all situations. So having understood this, let us now move on to the next type of listening, that is sympathetic listening. Sympathetic listening is driven by emotion. So instead of paying even importance to the words conveyed by the sender, the receiver gives importance to the emotion that is conveyed, through his words, and thereby he focuses on the feelings and emotions of the speaker. So if it does not give importance to words, again, you might lose out on important information. So merely focusing on emotion may not be appropriate for the receiver to gather information. Let us now move on to the next type of listening, and that is comprehensive listening. Comprehensive listening is similar to information listening, because you understand the words spoken by the sender, and you tend to learn something new. You always are in a lookout for learning something new. So empathetic listening, on the other hand, you listen from the other person's perspectives, that is, you give importance to the viewpoints of the other person. You tend to respect the perspective of the other person, and therefore you also tend to relate to the experience of the other person. So that is very important. And so having understood this, let us now move on to the next type, that is critical listening. Critical listening, on the other hand, helps the listener to analyze the information that is conveyed by the sender. In a way, he uses the background information that he already has about the topic, and tries to, he's very flexible in the sense he is open to the different perspectives. He's open to the perspective of the sender, thereby respecting the perspective of the sender, and is fair in a way, because it is because of his objectivity, that is because of the information that he has, he tries to be very objective in his in trying to come forward with his own opinion, because of the research that he has done about the particular topic. So in this way, it helps him to evaluate his own understanding. It helps him to evaluate the information shared by the sender, and it also helps him to arrive at a particular viewpoint. So having said this, I would say that critical thinking is a higher order skill, and in this particular thinking, it is important for the receiver to question himself while involving himself in the process of critical listening. So when he questions himself, he asks himself the question, why it happened, how it happened, and what happened. So when these questions will help him to analyze the information conveyed by the sender, and thereby the critical listening is definitely a difficult task. And it is, since I've said it is a higher order thinking skill, so the receiver is should have prior information about the topic, and he should be very clear about the information that he has about the particular topic before he involves himself in critical thinking. So having said this, I would like now to go on to the importance of listening. In listening is very important, as we understand that with listening, we can definitely improve our communication skills. So when we listen, we also learn vocabulary. We also learn the use of a particular word in a context. We also learn, acquire information from the sender. Apart from this, listening is important because it reduces the misunderstanding between the sender and the receiver, and it builds empathy towards the sender, and it also limits judgments. We don't tend to judge people on the basis of what they've said. Rather, we tend to understand the person, and we tend to, give an objective viewpoint of our understanding. So we tend to, rather than saying, talking about the sender as a good person or a bad person or a very good person and a very bad person, we tend to talk about from the perspective of what more information we require, or what is it that we want from the sender, or what questions we need to put forward to the sender, so that we can get more clarification about the particular topic. So in a way, it improves the relationship between the sender and the receiver, and it increases the productivity of the organization, because listening also helps in improving the business relationship between the employees of the organization, that is the relationship between the superior and the subordinate, relationship between colleagues, and so on. And it enhances the leadership skills, and it also helps to provide feedback. So this is, I would say, as a good listener is someone who looks at the speaker but does not interrupt the speaker in between, pays attention to the speaker, thinks about what they hear, stays focused, and so on. So having said this, I would like now to thank all of you for your patient listening.